Welcome to the Math Record. Today I'll be covering the ICTM State 2017 Division A Algebra 1. I'll be going through every single question from 1 through 20 in that order. And if you want to go through a specific question, I'll be time-stamping all these questions in the description. Okay, number 1. Let x and y be integers such that x is between 13 and 15 and y be between -5 and -3. Determine the value of 2x plus y. Since x and y has to be integers, that means x has to be 14 and y has to be -4. So plugging into the equation, that would be 28 minus 4, which is equal to 24. That's the first question. So that's number 1. It should be pretty simple. Number 2, let kw be a solution to the system x plus 2y is equal to 8 and 4x minus y is equal to 5. Determine the sum k plus w. Well, we have x plus 2y, which is equal to 8, and 4x minus y, which is equal to 5. So what I see is that there's a negative y and a positive 2y. So when I see that, I like to use elimination. I like to use elimination over substitution regardless because substitution usually takes longer and elimination is much faster and easier to think about. So adding these two equations together, right? So I squared the second equation by 2. Now adding them, so that's 9x is equal to 18. That means x is equal to 2. So if x is equal to 2, let's plug it into the first equation. So if x is equal to 2, then 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So y is equal to 3. So that means k is 2 and w is equal to 3. So adding them together, that's 5. And that's for number 2. So that should be relatively simple also. It's just a regular system of equations, and it should go pretty fast if you're doing mental math on it. Okay, number 3. Let x squared minus 4y squared equals 30 and x minus 2y equals 5. Determine the value of x plus 2y. Well, all you have to do is that you see that the it's a minus, right? So it's gonna be able to be factored by squaring. So it'd be x minus 2y and x plus 2y, right? Because x times x is x squared. This and this cancel each other out when they're multiplied, and then the negative 4y squared. So that's equivalent. So that makes 30. And we know x minus 2y is 5, right? So then divide both sides by 5. So x plus 2y divided by 5 is 6. So this is what we're looking for already. So our answer is just 6, and that's number 3. So we really don't have to solve for x and y. Number 4, the sum of twice a number and 3 times a second number is 16. The difference between the two numbers is 3. If the first number is greater than the second number, determine the sum of the two numbers. Well, the first number is greater than the second number, and so let's just say our first number is a and our second number is b. So then twice a number, okay, so 2 times a is equal to 3 times the second number, so 3 times b plus 16, right? Because twice the sum of a number and 3 times a second number. Oh wait, so sorry. Twice a number plus 3 times the second number, because that's a sum, and equals to 16. And the difference between those numbers is 3. So a is bigger than 3, so a minus b is equal to 3. All right. So then we're going to use elimination again, like how we did with number 2. So that would be 2a minus 2b is equal to 6. And them together, that is, oh, sorry, that is 3. 3a minus 3b is equal to 9. Sorry about that. So adding our b's together and a's together, that is 5a is equal to 25. So that means a is equal to 5. Plug this one back into this one because it looks easier. So that means 5 minus 3, that's b is equal to 2, right? So then determine the sum of the two numbers, that's just 5 plus 2, which is 7, which is the answer for number 4. Okay, so number 4 is just like a word version. It's just a word version of number 2. Number 5, let a equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's just from 1 to 12. If x is in the set A and x plus 7 represents an even integer, determine the sum of all distinct possibilities for x. Okay, so since x plus 7 has to be an even integer, that means x has to equal odd. Because an odd plus a 7, which is also odd, so odd plus an odd is equal to an even. And that's the only way that it works. Because if x is equal to even, and even plus an odd, because 7 is odd, then it's going to make an odd, which is not what we want, because we want an even integer. So x is only odd. And the only odds in that set is just 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. So instead of adding them all individually, let's kind of think of a pattern. So we see these, right? So 1 plus 11 is 12, 3 plus 9 is 12, and 5 plus 7 is 12, right? So there's 3 12s. So multiplying them, 12 times 3 is 36, and that's your answer for number 5, right? And that works because it's an arithmetic sequence. It goes by 2. Okay, number 6. For an answer, write the capital letter which corresponds to the correct choice. Determine which of the following five statements is sufficient to deduce that x is greater than y. Okay, so we need to find that x is greater than y. Okay, so x plus y is equal to x plus 1 is equal to y. Does that work? Let's plug in numbers. So if x is equal to 1, that means y is equal to 2. Okay, that's not true because x has to be greater than y, but y is greater than x in this case, so A does not work. Okay, let's try B. Well, is exactly the same thing as A. It's just that they changed 1 to 2.2. So now y is just going to be bigger than 1 even more, so it does not matter. So B is also going to fail. Okay, C, x minus 1.3 is equal to y. Okay, so if x is equal to 1, that means y is equal to, let's actually use a different number. Let's say x is equal to 2. So y is equal to a 0 0.7. So the reason I did that is because I just want them both to be positive. So when this happens, that means x is greater than y, which works, right? Because that's what we're looking for. And to prove this kind of conceptually also, is that if we say y is like right here, right? Rewrite this equation as x is equal to y plus 1.3, right? We just add 1.3 to both sides. So if you're adding something, you're going to the right. So that means x is somewhere right here when you move by 1.3. And anything to the right of a number is always going to be bigger than it. So C is always going to work. And that is our only answer for 6. If you want to know why D doesn't work, it's because if x and y, let's say x is negative 2 and y is negative 1, right? Because y is greater than x, which is not true, right? Because we want x greater than y, but they multiply to be a greater than 0, right? Because this sorry, that's a 2. It's greater than 0. So that's true, but it doesn't satisfy the equation that we want. And it's the same thing with E, where x and y is less than 0, right? Let's just say x is now negative 2 and y is equal to 1, right? So y is definitely greater than x, but we want x is greater than y, right? But this is multiplied to negative 2, which is less than 0. So that's that while the equation is true, what we want is not true. So it's D and E doesn't work. So the answer for 6 is C. And that's a lot, and you could just logic your way through this. You don't have to take this step by step like how I did. You could just get rid of A and B because they're exactly the same. And then you look at D and E, and they kind of look the exact same too, so the answer is C. Okay, number 7. Determine the values for k such that kx squared minus 42xy plus 49y squared factors to the square of a binomial. So since it has to be a binomial, it's got to be in the form like ax plus by squared. So if it's in this form, we had to just take the square root of the squares term. So that's x squared and y squared. Since we don't know what x squared is, let's just do the y squared. So the square root of 49y squared is just 7y. So we don't know if it's plus or minus. So let's just kind of look at our second term. It's negative 42xy, right? So what we need to know is that since if this is positive and this is positive, right, and we multiply them together, we're gonna get overall positive, right? Because that's the only thing we could get. So for that to be possible, that means for this to be negative, that means b has to be equal to negative. So that means this has to be a negative 7y. Okay, so we got our first part, so minus 7y. Okay, so remember this is where we're gonna put our answer. So to get the next term, we just had to have the negative 42xy divided by this number, which is negative 7y, which is what we have, and then also divided by 2. It's always going to be a 2. So the y cancel out with the y. Um, that makes 14, negative 14, I mean, and then divide by this is 3, right? So 3x. So the first term is going to be the 3x. So let's kind of delete all this because we don't need it. Just remember what we have. So we have 3x minus 7y squared. So that should be, squaring this should be 9x squared. 3x minus 7y squared is negative 21xy. And then multiplied by 2 is negative 42xy. And that's why I said to divide by 2, because because when you're going the forwards way, it's gonna multiply by 2. So if you're doing it the reverse way, you gotta divide by 2. And then this one's gonna be negative 7y squared is gonna be 49y squared, right? So those two terms matches. So we're looking for k, that is 9. So that's the answer for number 7. Okay. Okay, number 8. Determine the value of 17x plus 17y when 13 plus x equals 47 minus y. So let's write that out. And let's move all the variables to one side. So add the y to the other side, so x plus y, and move the 13 to the other side. So 49 minus 13 is going to be 36. Oh, sorry, that was 47. Sorry about that. That was 47. 47 minus 13 is going to be 34. Okay. So if we want to find 17x plus 17y, that's just 17 times more than this. So it's 17 times more of this is equal to 17 times 34. So 34 is the same thing as 17 times 2. So we know, and if you know what your like 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, etc. goes on, then you should know that 17 by 17 because it's kind of reoccurring sometimes. It doesn't recur mostly, but it recurs somewhat. So 17 times 17 is 289. And then multiply by 2, 18, 1, 16, 17, 1, 4, 5. So it's got to be 578. That looks kind of bad. So 578. That's your answer for number 8. But this is also a calculator contest, so you should just use your calculator for this so you don't make any mistakes. Number 9. Let b and c be integers with g of x equals a, x squared plus bx plus c, and f of x equals x squared plus cx plus b. Determine the sum of b plus c when g of c is equal to b of c, where c is not equal to b. Okay, so let's plug in those numbers first, right? If they give you something plug in, just plug it in and see what happens. So it's going to be c squared plus bc plus c. When you plug in c into g of x, and then you plug in b into f of x, which is going to be b squared plus bc plus b. Okay, so what terms do we see the same? bc, so let's cancel those out. And let's put the square on one side. So it's going to be c squared minus b squared is equal, and then we move the linear to the other side, so b minus c, right? So move this one here, move that one over there. Okay, so we just swap places those two. So what does this look like again? Where it looks like we could factor, since this is negative, right, and we see squares, we could factor by squaring, right? So it's got to be c minus b, then c plus b. And this is b minus c, right? And you can also rewrite this side, so it's c minus b, c plus b, and this could just be a negative c minus b, right? Because negative c is this part, and then negative a negative b is positive b, which is this part. So that's equivalent. And where do we see this term? Well, we see it right here, right? So let's cross those two out, and then c plus b is just equal to that negative 1. So, which is what we're looking for, b plus c, right? Or c plus c is the same thing, which is negative 1, which is your answer for number 9. Okay, so you really don't need to find what b and c is. Number 10, the ratio of 4a minus 3b to 2a plus 5b is 3 to 2. Determine the ratio of a to b. Express your answer in the form k dot, sorry, I can't speak today, colon w. So what we have is a ratio, so we're gonna have to set up like a fraction. So it's gonna be 4a minus 3b divided by 2a plus 5b is equal to 3 over 2. So cross multiplying 8a minus 6b is equal to 6a plus 15b, right? Subtract from both sides. 8a minus 6a is 2a, and 15b plus 6b is 21b. And then that means if we had to find the ratio of a to b, we had to divide by b in both sides. So it's going to be a divided by b, right? So then you got to move 2 to the other side, so it's 21 divided by 2. So the ratio is just going to be 21 colon 2. So 21 to 2, right? Because you can't write it as fraction. ICTM is really serious in what format you're going to write your answer. So you write it as fraction, even though numbers are correct, you're going to get it wrong because you didn't write it the right way. So you have to write it as 21 colon 2. I'm not sure if that's the right vocab, but I'm a math major, so it's a little different. Okay. Number 11, determine the numerical answer of the triangle enclosed by the system. Okay, so first we're going to have to find those points. So 4x minus 2 is equal to negative 4x plus 14. Okay, so we're going to use the first equation and the second, and then we're going to use the first and the third, and then we're going to use the second and the third, right? So we get 3 points, because that's 3 points is a triangle. So adding them together, that's 8x is equal to 16. That means x is equal to 2. So if x is equal to 2, let's plug it back into this equation. So that is 8 minus 2 is 6. So our first point is 2 comma 6. Okay, so we know that part. Okay, oops, sorry, that's 4x minus 2, like first equation, and now third equation, which is 4 thirds x minus 2. So what I see is that we both have the same y-intercept. So that means if we have the same y-intercept, that means the point that they're gonna cross at is gonna be at the y-intercept, right? So it's gonna be at 0, -2. If you plug in 0, that's -2. You plug in 0 here, that's -2. So that's your point of intersection. So 0, -2, right? Okay. Okay, now the second equation and the third, which is -4x plus 14 and 4/3 x minus 2. Okay, so we're gonna put the -1 here this time because I like to keep what the coefficient in front of the x usually positive. So this is 12 over 3, so add that is 16 over 3 x. So add the 2 to this side, so that'll be 16. That means x is equal to 3, obviously, because 16 over 3 times 3 is just 16, right? Because it crosses out this denominator. So that means y is equal to, plug this one back into this equation. So 4 over 3 times 3 is 4, minus 2 is 2. So that's our 3 points, 3, 2. Okay. So how do we find the area of this? Well, what I like to use when I have coordinate points to find the polygon inside, it doesn't work. It works for any single polygon, not just a triangle. It's something called the shoelace theorem. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna plot these points out first. So it's gonna be 2, 6. Okay, so 2, 6. And then 0, -2. So 0, -2. So somewhere right here. So 0, -2. And then we have 3, 2. So 3, 2. So somewhere right here. Okay. And what I like to do is I use the point for on the furthest right. So we're gonna start with 3, 2. And then we're gonna go clockwise around. So it's gonna be 3, 2, and then 2, 6. Right? Write your coordinates. 3, 2, 2, 6. And then it's gotta be your 0, -2. And then what and then once you're done with your all coordinates, you're gonna go back to your first one, right? So you're going around, so where, here, and then back here. So you're going back to 3, 2, and you're gonna write that one again. So when you write your first point again, you're gonna stop. Okay, so what you're gonna do is that you're gonna act like these are matrices. So how this kind of works is you're gonna multiply these two. So these two are gonna be your matrix, and then you're gonna do a matrix of this, and then you're gonna do a matrix of this, right? So you gotta find the determinant of that, which is really simple. So it's just 6 times 3 is 18, and then 2 times 2 is 4. It's gonna be a minus 4. Okay, so -2 times 2, that's -4, and then 0 times 6 is 0, so it's gotta be a minus 0. And then 2 times 0 is 0. And then 3 times -2 is -6, but you gotta be a minusing a -6, right? So whatever this multiplies up to, just keep it the same. Whatever that multiplies up to, you gotta minus that version. Okay. And then this one's gonna be equal to 14. This is equal to -4, and this one's equal to 6. This is minus 6, right? So adding them all up together, that is 10. That's 16. And then whatever this number you get, divide it by 2, and that should be your area. That's 8. So that's your answer for number 11. Okay, so really fast way to do it. Number 12. Fran's family has moved around a lot. Her street address has the following numbers: 107, 213, 219, 512, and 2118. Let S be the sum of distinct prime divisors of at least one of these house numbers. In the equation x squared minus bx plus c is equal to 0, b is a number in S, and S the value c is the product of the two numbers in S. Determine the value of c. So what we're gonna have to do is we could just find the prime factorization of every single number. So usually that takes way too long by hand, so I recommend just using your calculator. What I use is something called a TI Nspire. A TI 84 works too, but I prefer this calculator because it's more compact. But it's you're gonna have to factor every single number, so factor 107. That's already a prime, so that's 107. And 213, factor 213, and that should be like 3 and 71, I believe. Yep, 3 and 71. Okay, so you just gotta write like distinct factors. If it's repeated, we're not gonna write it again. Okay, 219 is gonna be 3 and 73, so we're just gonna put the 73, right? Because we already have 3. Factor 512, and I believe that's only a 2, right? Because that's 2 to the power 9, so that's just 2. And the factor of 2118, which is 2, 3, which we already have, and 353. Okay, so when we're looking for C, which is the product of two numbers in C, and B is a number in S, is, C is a two numbers in S, and B is only one number in S, right? B, right? When we write x squared minus bx plus c. B is a number for one of these, right? But B is also just the sum of two numbers here, or the difference of two numbers here. So what I mean is that when we kind of look at this, can we make a 107 from two numbers here? Well, we can't. Can we make a 3 here? We can't. 71? Nope. 73? No. 2? Yes. We can make it from 71 and 73 subtracted from each other, right? 73 minus 71 is 2. Can we make a 753? There is no way. There is no numbers that can make that big a number. So the only one that makes sense are these three. So our B is going to be our 2, right? So since we're subtracting a number, right, we can't have both positive, right? Because then if it's both positive, it would be 73 plus 71 plus 73, which doesn't work because we need to get a 2, right? That doesn't equal 2. So it's going to be a 73 and negative 73 and 71. Or right? Actually a negative 71 and a 73, right? So it's going to be x plus 71 and x minus 73, right? And when you multiply that out, that makes negative 2x, right? Because negative 73 positive 71 makes negative 2x, which is what we need. So we're just going to have to find c, which is just the product of these two numbers, which is 71 times negative 73, right? Sorry that I wrote it like that, but it's just 71 times 73 and multiplied by negative 1, which should come out as negative 5183, which is your answer for number 12 because that's C. Okay, number 13. Let A and B be such that a squared b minus 3x minus 2ab plus 6b is equal to 32. If a is 4 more than twice b, determine the product ab. Okay, so we had to, if a is 4 more than twice b, so 2b plus 4, right? Because a is 4 more than twice of this, so you have to add 4 to this side to balance it out. Uh, if you have troubles like understanding how to write these numbers out, I recommend just looking through a bunch of similar questions and see how they worded, because you gotta have like a literal sense of how these numbers work. And now how to factor this part. So we have a squared b minus 3a minus 2ab squared plus 6b is equal to 32. So I see a 2 and a 6 that makes 1 and 3, and this is already 1 and 3, so I'm going to factor by grouping. So I'm going to distribute out an a, which is going to be ab minus 3. And then right here, I'm going to distribute out a negative 2b, which is going to give us a b minus a 3, which equals 32, right? So we could combine a minus 2b. I know it's kind of hard to look at because since it's all white, it shows a different color. AB minus 3 is equal to 32. Okay, so here's what we need, the AB, right? Because that's our question. We don't have to find A and B. We just need to find the product of A and B. So that's what we're looking for. So what is A here? Well, our A could be substituted right here because that's what they give us in the second part of the sentence, is equal to 2b plus 4. So 2b plus 4 minus 2b is equal to just 4 times AB minus 3 is equal to 32, right? So divide by 4, we got 8, and AB is equal to 11, right? So we don't have to look for AB. We just need to find what AB is. So A and B, we just need to find AB. So our number 13 is 11. So when you're solving these type of questions, don't try to look for extraneous information. If you see like a shortcut, just do it. If you don't see it after, then that's just like unlucky, but it's fine. Okay, just try to minimize your time as much as possible. Number 14. On just completed a 4-day trip. On the first day, she drove 531 miles. On the second, 615. On the third, 704. And on the fourth, K. If she drove an average of 622.5 miles per day for the 4-day trip, determine the value K. Okay, so this is just a simple average question. So you have 531 and 615 and 704 and K, right? This should add up to some kind of number, right? And then it says it drove an average of 622.5 miles per day. So that means, and it was a 4-day trip. So it's going to be 625 times 4 is going to be equal to this number, right? Because that's your average. If you average that amount and you multiply by the total amount, by the total that you need to scale by, which is the 4 days, right? So 625 miles per day, and then there's 4 days, right? So you multiply them together, should give you your total amount of miles, which is 2490, right? But that's not our answer. We need to find k. So 2490 minus 513 minus 615 minus 704, which should give you k is 640 miles. And that's your answer for number 14. Also, I'm gonna bring up units. You don't usually have to write your units in these contests. You can write 640 miles if you want, but you don't have to. You just need 640. Okay, number 5. Let k equal the infinite radical of 110 plus 110, square root of 110 plus square root of 110, etc. Right? So an easy way to do this is we're gonna substitute where we're gonna see the equation. So we have 110. So where do we see again? Well, we see again already, right? So this equation, right, is already seen in here, right? So we could substitute that section with plus k, right? So imagine that infinite radical just right here again, right, etc. Sorry, etc. Right? So that's why we substitute with k. Now we just have to find k, right? It's just an equation now, right? It's really easy equation. So it'll be k squared is equal to 110 plus k. So k squared minus k minus 110 is equal to 0. So how do we make that that 1? Well, I see it right here that this is made by 11 and 10, right? So it's just going to be k minus, since I want this to be negative, that means the bigger number has to be the negative, so which is going to be 11. K minus 11 and k plus 10, right, equals 0. So that's k squared plus k minus 11k, so that's minus k, and then minus 110, right? So k has to be equal to 11. Okay, so that's your answer for number 15. It cannot be negative 10 because you can't take a square root of a positive and make it negative, right? That's just the fundamental principle of radicals. Number 16. Will has 52 coins in his Lego bank. All nickels or pennies. The total values of these coins is $1.20. Determine how many of each type of coin he has in the bank. And write it in order pairs, which nickels and pennies. Okay, so we have nickels plus pennies. So how much does he have? 52. If nickel is 5 cents, so it's going to be 5 times n. A penny is 1 cent, so we're just going to write p. And that's equal to 120 cents, right? I'm not going to work with decimals because I usually don't like to, so I just usually write it like this. So what we're going to do is elimination again. So multiply the first equation by negative 1. So negative n minus p is equal to negative 52. So adding these two equations together, we're going to get to 4n. And then this is 60, that's 60, 68. Okay, so n is equal to 17, right? So if n is equal to 17, we'll plug it back to this first equation because it looks easier. So that means n, 72, that is going to be equal to 35. So our nickels is 17 and our pennies is 35. And that's a really fast way to solve it for number 16. Okay. Usually in the contest, it seems like I'm doing it really fast, but sometimes you're gonna just probably slow down. Even though you know it's gonna correct the answer, you might want to double check because of the anxiety. But it's depending on how it is, just how you do it. Just have precision over speed because precision over speed is better to get it right than actually do it fast. Okay, number 17. Point P has a coordinate 4, negative 3, and is located at a constant distance of 4 from all the graph on the graph of this. Determine the sum A plus B plus B C plus D. Oh, sorry, I can't speak today. 4 and negative 3. Maybe because I'm just talking too fast. Okay, and what we have is a constant difference of 4. So this point is 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, right, etc. I'm just bad at drawing, right? All these points are 4 away. So what does that look like? Well, you kind of connect all those points. Well, that's just a circle. So how do we find that? So let's draw a clearer image. So 4, negative 3, and it looks something like this. So it seems that this point right here is our center, right? So how it kind of writes is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to our radius squared. Okay, we already know our radius is 4, so let's plug that one in. Okay, so I'm going to leave that blank because we're going to plug that one in too. So 4 squared is 16. Okay, so our h is going to be the x coordinate of our center. So our x coordinate of our center is 4. And k is our y coordinate of our center, which is negative 3. So a negative of a negative 3 is plus 3. Okay, so factoring this out, that's x squared minus 8x plus 16. And it's going to be plus y squared plus 6y plus 9. And this one's going to be a minus 16 because we need to move 16 to the side, right? Is equal to 0. And then we're going to subtract the 16 from both sides. So then those we cancel those out, right? So then we have a since we have to have y on one side, we gotta keep this y positive, so we're gonna move everything else to the other side, Okay. So we're gonna have to do now is negative x squared plus 8x and minus y squared and minus 9 is equal to 0, right? So then we just had to, and that's equal to our 6y because we kept that side, everything else moved to the other side. So we just divide by 6. So it'll be negative 1 over 6x squared plus 8 over 6x. So I'm not going to simplify it right now because we don't have to. Then minus 6 over. Okay, so now we have to add A, B, C, D. So this is A, this is B, this is C, and this is D because that's the right form. Actually, since I kind of wrote it really differently, this is A, this is B, this is C, and this one's D. Okay. So adding them together, and that's why I didn't simplify because now we can add it really easily. So negative 1 plus 8 is 7. 7 minus 1 is 6. Minus 9 is negative 3. So negative 3 over that 6 is equal to negative 1/2. And since they said wrote it as a common or improper fraction, we're gonna have to write it as a fraction. So it's gonna be negative 1/2 for number 17. Okay, pretty simple circle question. Number 18, determine the sum of all integers that satisfy the equation, the system. Okay, so let's do the first one first. So 4x minus x is just 3x and less than. And 33 minus 6 is 27. So that means x is less than 9. Okay, pretty simple. Next one, let's distribute that out. So that's 4x minus 8 plus 2x is greater than 2x plus 16. Okay, so we see a 2x and 2x here, so let's cancel that out. So 4x is greater than, add the 8 to the other side, so that's 24. So x is greater than or equal to 6. So we're going to rewrite it as 1, so we're going to combine these two together. So x is greater than or equal to 6, and x is less than 9. So x could only be 6, 7, or 8, right? Because remember, they're all integers. So adding them together, that is 13 and 21. And that's your answer for number 18. Okay. Number 19. For all x in the expression's natural domain, the expression of that raised to the power 1 can be simplified as a simple rational expression. Determine the numerator. Okay. So let's rewrite that again. So 2x plus 3 plus x minus 1 over x plus 2, then minus 4x plus 5. And that can be factored out as x plus 2 and times x plus 3. And raised to the power negative 1. Okay, so the trick is whatever you see on the other side, we're gonna put it in. So we're gonna multiply this side by x plus 2. So 2 times x plus 2, 2 times in parentheses x plus 2 is just 2x plus 4. And this one is x plus 3, x plus 2, right? Plus, now x minus 1 times x plus 3, because that's what is missing, right? It's gonna be x squared plus 2x minus 3. So it'll be x plus 2, x plus 3. And then we're just going to keep that one the same. So 4x plus 5, x plus 2, and x plus 3. So you don't really have to write the x plus 3 the entire time. If you get really, really familiar with this, you don't have to. I'm just showing my work for you guys. So then 2x, so we have an x squared on top, right? And the 2x plus this 2x is 4x. Cancel out with this minus 4x, so that cancels out. Plus 4 minus 3, that's 1. And then a minus 5 is minus 4. And then the bottom is x plus 3 and x plus 2. And remember, this is still in the parentheses, so that's still raised to the power of negative 1. Okay, so now we have that simplified one. So let's simplify this even further, because this is just a square, right? So that would be x minus 2 and x plus 2 on the top, and then x plus 3 and x plus 2. It's still in parentheses, negative 1. This cancels with this. So then we have x minus 2 and x plus 3 raised to the power of negative 1, which -1 tells us to switch the numerator and denominator, so this is going to be x plus 3 over x minus 2. So if we want just the denominator, which what the question is asking for, we just have x plus 3 as our answer. And that's just number 19. So this question is basically just simplifying, and that's basically it. So what I'm gonna ask as a hint, just I mean not as a hint, as like a reminder, just make sure to simplify slowly, just so then or quickly if you're confident to make sure that you're right. Okay, because you may have made a mistake and you might think that it cannot factor or something. Number 20. A square with area S and an isosceles right triangle with area T. Okay, so let's kind of draw that out first. When they usually give you shapes, you want to draw it out so you get a visual way to think about it. Okay, so they both have the square has area S and the triangle has area T, and but they have the same perimeter. Okay, so if our let's call our x side square side length x. So that is x plus x plus x plus x. That's 4x. So that means these three side lengths had to add up to x for our perimeter. So how do we know what this is? Well, let's kind of think about it. If this is y and this is y, then since this is an isosceles right triangle, so that's the keyword, isosceles. So that means this is 45 and this is 45 because they have to have the same angle because it's isosceles, right? And that's why this is y and this is y. And to find the hypotenuse, it's just gonna be whatever that side length is times square root 2. That's just a really neat trick that you should know. So the perimeter of this one is 3, sorry, a y plus y is just 2y plus this y square root 2 is just 2 plus square root 2 parentheses y. So we have to set these two equal to each other because they're the same parameter, right? So that tells us that if we want to find y in relation to x, it's going to be 4 divided by 2 plus square root 2. X is equal to y, right? So knowing that, let's kind of delete this, right? Because we know what y is. So we just got to substitute every single y with that. Okay. So both of these sides were y, so 4x over 2 plus square root 2. And this one's 4x 2 plus square root 2. And this one was just y times square root 2, so we just had to multiply by square root 2. So 4 square root 2 x. X is outside the square root, okay? Just make sure that you don't know. Okay. Delete. Okay, so now we know that's true. So we have this as area S and this is area T. So the area of this is x squared. So let's kind of write that down on this side so we don't lose track. Right, so let's separate this. So our area of this is x squared, okay? And then we're gonna multiply these two, which is 16x squared, right? 4x times 4x is 16x squared. And then 2 plus square root 2 squared, right? Because it's the same thing here. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then square root 2 times square root 2 is 2. Add those together, that's 6. Okay, now 2 times square root 2 is 2 square root 2 times another 2 is 4 square root 2. Right? It's a simple way of simplifying. What if you're multiplying like some kind of constant with some kind of radical, you could just multiply these two, multiply these two, and then add them together, and then you can multiply this with this, and then this with this, and then add them together, and that will give you your two ones. So that makes 2 square root 2, 2 square root 2, 4x, 4 square root 2, 4, and then square root 2, 4 square 2 square 2 is 2. That makes 6. And that's why I said it really quickly because it's really that simple. And then you multiply by half. It's base times height divided by 2 is your area triangle. So this is 8x squared divided by 6 plus 4 square root 2. Okay, and they're all even, so we could divide by 2. So it's going to be 4x squared divided by 3 plus 2 square root 2. Okay. So we need to compare these two. Which one is bigger? Well, if you kind of ignore the x squared, that's going to be 4, 3 plus square root 2. And ignore the x squared, so that's just the 1. So which one's bigger out of these two numbers? Well, if you don't know it, just use your calculator. Sorry, that's 2 square root 2. So 4 divided by 3 plus 2 square root 2, that is lower than 1. So this number is bigger than this number. So if we want to find a larger ratio, we're going to have the bigger number or the small number. So this number would be bigger than this number. because x squared is the same, and that's why I said not to worry about it. So we're gonna have 1. We're gonna have x squared divided by 4x squared over the 3 plus square root 2. So what does that simplify as? So let's delete that part. And we could delete that because that's easy to memorize. Because we're gonna have to use it. And delete, delete. Okay, we should be fine. So now we're gonna have the x squared divided by this number. So when we're dividing by a number, we're the same thing as multiplying by reciprocal. So 3 plus square root 2 over 4x squared. Cancel out the 4x squared on both sides, and all you're left is 3 plus 2 square root 2 over 4. Right? Because this is already simplified. So that's your answer for number 20. And it's basically just that simple. Well, thanks for watching for the 2017 Algebra 1 Division A for state. And as a reminder, everything is in the description below for the timestamps. You want to go back to any single question to check. But as a review, make sure you know your special right triangles for like, so what I mean is like the 30, 60, 90 triangle, the 45, 45, 90, right? Know how to simplify, know how to do your substitute equations. This came out like or 3 or 4 times in this question. Know like real world stuff like nickels and pennies, like how much they're worth, and that includes like Fahrenheit and like Celsius, but sometimes they ask that. Know how to do infinite like radicals, like how I just done. Know about like shapes, like just random polygons like decagons, octagons, pentagons, like circles. So know those. I know a circle isn't technically a polygon, but know like shapes in general. Okay, and their properties like surface area, volume, area by itself, like 2D, 3D, etc. Um, know about like pretty unique tricks. So question like 13 is like kind of similar to how I solved with question 3, right? Instead of actually solving for some of these numbers, you can actually just find a quicker way. So we don't have to find A and B by itself. We just have to find what the question's asking, because that's usually what the contest does. No terms specifically like primes and composites, or like vowels and consonants, because sometimes they might ask that. Um, no ratios, no slope, right? Learn like new weird theorems like the shoelace. And I think that's generally it. Know how to do linear and quadratics. And no conceptual ideas, like how things work in relation to each other. And that's basically it. Well, thanks for watching, and good luck on the ICTM.